Welcome to another edition of the Big Nick Energy Podcast. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, and comment on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Pods, and Podbean. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram, join our Facebook group, and join our Chalkboard, a messaging board app designed specifically around gambling and sports. We're at 122. Once we get to 250, we'll be doing another giveaway, maybe a Knicks ticket giveaway. We'll figure it out once we get closer. I have a super special guest today. He's a director of broadcast for Esports Engine in Columbus, Ohio, as well as one half of the official Cleveland Cavaliers podcast titled, I made this part up, LeBron James made Andre Iguodala get that weak bleep out of here. I'm joking. It's titled the Chase Down Pod. Carter Rodriguez, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing quite well, sir. I've been on paternity leave, which has been great. Been off for 6 weeks. I go back Monday, so you got me at a great time. And over those 6 weeks, I've watched a lot of basketball, man. Because let me tell you, you spend a lot of time just with a baby on your chest, with a newborn. It's obviously, the joke I've been making for all my non-parent friends is that having a newborn is kind of like working a never-ending fast food shift. like it's labor intensive.
That sounds terrible.
It's labor intensive. You're tired, but it's not that hard.
Right.
Like the work isn't that complicated. You're just keeping a baby alive. So it gives you a chance to watch. If you are looking to catch up on a lot of content, it's pretty good for that. So I've been watching a ton of hoops, so it's been fun.
They pee, poop, eat, sleep, and cry, from what I understand. Hopefully, anything outside of those four.
Correct. You nailed it, buddy. You're ready.
I'm ready. Let's go. Shannon, baby, when you listen to this, you heard it. Carter said we're ready. Let's go from here. Carter, so like I said, you are one half of the Chase Down podcast, which is awesome. I personally do not believe in anything below 100%, which is why I waited to actually reach out to you. Thankfully, you were still on paternity leave when I did, because up until 2 days ago, it was not 100% the Knicks and Cavs were going to play each other. I've lost enough parlays, and by parlay, I mean I take a minus 120, my actual pick, and I take a minus 850 live game betting favorite, and the minus 850 loses, and I hit on the minus 120. So I waited, basically, long story short. So now that we are here, and we are at the moment we're all looking for, April 15th, game 1 in Cleveland. Knicks at Cavaliers. I have watched and seen, obviously, the Cavs enough this year. I would say 5 to 10 games. But more importantly, I've seen a lot of Cavs Twitter. And Cavs Twitter and Knicks Twitter feel like they're moving in two different confident directions. So tell me what is happening on your end and why is the sky falling for your fans?
Oh, it's always a little bit falling for Cleveland fans. It's a group that was raised in the mire of Browns fandom, a lot of them, and there's a lot of training to be angsty.
Yeah.
But I think for the most part, most of the Cavs circle I follow just adores this team. A 50-win team 2 years ago seemed unfathomable. I actually checked. I checked my own Twitter archive because in the aftermath of LeBron leaving the second time, my number one anxiety was that we would just be the Sacramento Kings East. And
which up until this year was a bad thing.
Yeah, up until this year, a bad thing, and turns out they're Cavs West this year, and they were just such a messy organization. They couldn't just be normal bad either. It was like sloppy, embarrassing stories, Andre Drummond going viral for like the worst offensive possession of the decade, Kevin Love chucking a ball at Colin Sexton's head.
I forgot all about that.
Yeah, just like, and it just felt like things were just going to stay so dysfunctional. So the fact that this team is where it is, with not only the quality of players, but the age of the players, we got a core forward led by a 26-year-old, and he's the oldest by a country mile.
Yep. Similar boat here, as you'll find out, obviously.
Absolutely. And then also it seems to be a team of pretty nice young men. Kobe Altman really clearly leaned on his Team USA roots when building this team.
Yep.
Found a lot of guys with Team USA experience who have been in that system for a long time that, when Team USA gets their hands on guys, I think it tends to, have a very positive effect for their development. And they really prioritize dudes who work really hard, even guys who are out the door now, like Colin Sexton, who helped facilitate picking up Donnie. but it's a team full of dudes who work really, really hard, who seem to be very nice. In fact, my co-host Justin and I actually talk all the time about how this summer they might need to pick up an asshole just because they're just so friendly and nice across the board that, you know, they might need an irritant somewhere along the line.
Yeah.
I think it's a really easy team to root for. I think they're ahead of schedule with metrics that actually, you know, far outpace their record. You know, this is by the net rating, this is a 54-55 win team, and they're probably going to be a 51-52 win team. So I feel like they're just starting to scratch the potential, and man, I'm really, really excited for a team that really hasn't gotten that much attention. You know, the national TV schedule was made before they traded for Donovan Mitchell, so this team is only on national TV like 3 times this year. So
That's unbelievable.
So they didn't get a lot of love. They didn't get a lot of attention from the national media. And brother, if there's a team that if you want some attention, I don't know if there's a better first round matchup than the Knicks in the first round, because good or bad, people are going to be watching.
That is for sure, 100%. We always say Knicks for clicks, obviously. But if you play or are the Knicks or the Lakers, whether you want to be talked about or not, you will be talked about over and over again. That is for sure, 100%. I wanted to ask you real quick before we get into this is mostly about the playoffs and playoff matchup, obviously. I haven't actually talked to any Cavs fans yet this year, not in a public setting like this. What was your initial reaction to last July and August when Donovan Mitchell was rumored to go to New York? That seemed like it was almost set in stone. And then out of nowhere, it seemed like from our end at least, Cleveland swoops in, Sexton, Markkanen, one more other player, Okoji, right? And then
Ochai Agbaji.
Ochai? Yeah, I can never say his name. I'm sorry. Ochai, and then 3 picks. Came out of nowhere, it seemed like, and then just swooped in. Danny Ainge said yes, and all of a sudden you guys had Donovan Mitchell, and indirectly ended up losing an all-star this year, which who would have saw that coming, honestly. What was your overall takeaway from how that went, and then Markkanen making the all-star team afterwards? Like, initial feelings for the past year before this playoff matchup?
So initial feelings are proof that I'm a big dumb idiot, because I was kind of lukewarm on it, you know, like I think it kind of goes, my reaction as well as my co-host reaction, we were both like, okay, he's going to be really good. We think it's going to fit, but man, it's a lot to give up for a guy who, you know, whose on-off metrics have never been that great in Utah. Like, this was a team that, you know, rarely was a lot better with him on the floor, even when he was the sole offensive engine for them.
Right.
And you worry how much of the performance is, you know, built in the system and stuff like that. And then they gave up a ton. Like, I loved Lauri Markkanen. I thought he was an awesome player. And
you got to see what he could do this year prior. Cause I mean, he'd had 25-point games in bits and spurts. This seems like it came almost out of nowhere though.
So we saw flashes, but you got to remember that he did not expect to start at the 3 for the Cavs last year. No one expected that to happen. And it was pretty controversial when JB started him at the 3 next to Evan.
Very tall team.
They were enormous, but they also, Okoro didn't really lock up that starting small forward spot last year. And JB was like, well, I need shooting, so I'm just going to play the guy and we'll figure it out later. And so he kind of got thrust in within the last like a week of preseason to all of a sudden be an almost full-time small forward. So this whole summer, he was prepping to be a small forward. And you could kind of see that in his game. You could see that at Eurobasket. And yep. Justin and I were pretty sure we were going to see an even better version of Lauri than we saw in his sole year in Cleveland. But come on, who would have seen an all-star with 200 threes and 100 dunks and whatever other records he broke? No, I did not see this coming. But you know, it's so funny though. This is kind of the thing where if you kind of try to just count piece for piece, you might think, man, Cavs still gave up a lot, but like just the exponential value of a first team All NBA level player is hard to match. So
in his 20s, we're not talking about James Harden at 33 either.
Yeah, and like I think what I just learned, one is that Donnie is a very different player than I thought he was. I thought he would be a lot more frustrating to watch. I thought we'd see a lot of shots that went up that I didn't love. And also he's just a better vibes guy than I thought. You know, you look at a team as unhappy as that Utah team was, and I don't know if as a Knicks fan you had those same kind of concerns as the sweepstakes were ramping up, but I was like, hey man, if you're the best player on an unhappy team, what does that mean?
Right.
For you. And to me, it's just very clear that like you just don't know these guys till they're there. We had Tony Jones from The Athletic, who is an amazing reporter that covers the Jazz on the pod after the trade, and he's like, no, everyone loves Donovan Mitchell. Like he is universally beloved. And he also talked about how much how Donovan thought he kind of stunk last year, and was in working to get into insane shape this summer to have a bounce back year, which is funny because like his numbers were still great. They were probably even his best, which like that just told me a lot about how self-aware of a guy he is. And because, it's so easy for these guys to martyr themselves in this modern environment where you have a lot of yes men in your ear saying, oh, it's Rudy's fault. It's the rest of the roster's fault. It's Quinn Snyder's. No, like Donnie clearly was like, hey, I wasn't good enough last year. And that's a big reason we flamed out. Like, yeah, it was time to move on, but also I have culpability in that. And you really saw him take a leap this year. I mean, yes, I was wrong in being lukewarm because I adore this guy and would make the trade 100 times out of 100. Even knowing that Ochai is playing well, that Sexton's been solid, and that Lauri's taken a leap, still would do it. But he's also better than he's ever been, and it's been an absolute pleasure to watch him.
If you to switch the caps real quick, right? To say you were a Knicks fan for like the next 30 to 45 seconds, because a lot of us now feel like we actually also made the right move by not making the trade, which because Quentin Grimes isn't what we think he could potentially be yet. But as you see when you've played him and when you're watching film, he is like a borderline all-world defender already. He keeps a lot of guys in front of him that should not stay in front of him based on his build, based on his speed. He knows where to be almost a split second before they do. And the RJ Barrett piece, I'm sure we'll get into at some point in the next 25 to 30 minutes. Would you, as a Knicks fan, if you were a Knicks fan for a second, be happy you still did not make the trade?
I think that's to borrow a word from the Zoomers. I think that's a little bit of copium from Knicks fans.
That's fair.
I think ultimately, especially knowing what I know about Donnie and given the season RJ's having, where RJ's not looking like we just had Andrew Claudio on our podcast, and he's not looking like the piece you thought he was going to be. So if he is just an expensive volume scorer, like, hi, I've got a Karis LeVert on my team to show you that that can play that role just fine. That
for
wouldn't
$8
be
million less a year.
Yeah, that I wouldn't turn down Donovan Mitchell for. So if it turns into Obi Toppin and Quentin Grimes and some firsts for Donovan Mitchell, who I think proved he can thrive in a small backcourt defensively. This season, I still would do. If I were the Knicks, I would have thrown that extra pick in or unprotected that extra pick and just gotten the deal done, especially given the value y'all have on the free agency market and given the fact that Julius Randle is a little bit older on the development curve than the other guys. Now, I still can't believe how young he is. I feel like he's got one of those faces I add 3 years to.
Yeah.
I add 3 years to whatever Julius Randle is for whatever reason. But like, just the fact that he, Brunson, and Randle would all be on a very similar age curve, and you'd have, yes, your chips would be pushed in, but I still think if the Knicks end up pushing their chips in for a different star, I don't think any other GM is going to be like, actually, we don't want Grimes.
Right.
Actually, we don't want all your first. So I think like, you kick the can down the road for that upgrade. And like, obviously, to be clear, I think the Knicks have had an awesome season. And I think anyone who thinks that, I think the only person who's being negative about a playoff series if they lose is Stephen A. Smith. Like, I think win or lose, they've had an awesome year.
You're not on Knicks Twitter. Wait until I tell you some of the quotes I have.
Man, okay. But I think they've had an awesome year no matter what. And like, I don't know. It's also cool to see like a guy like Tom Thibodeau grow and change. Like, if I told you that Mike Brown and Tom Thibodeau would be coaching two of the best like 5 offenses in the league, I mean, 5 years ago, I would have blown your
Stranger
mind.
Things, man. It's the upside down. It's not a real thing.
So I don't know. I feel like it's a team New York can very easily root for, with a lot of likable players. Like, I freaking love Grimes. Quickly feels like a New York legend in the making. And so like, 100%. Yes, So yes, I still would make the trade for Donovan, but I think that the team has played well enough that you're not absolutely killing yourself for not making it. Like I don't. I guess what I would say is I don't think it would be stupid if your answer is no, even if I would say yes.
We don't have the disappointment we had in August or September. That is 100% facts for sure. Some of the quotes I have and some of the things, because we also, so when we messaged you before, it was on accident. There's 4 of us connected to the BKE account. The guy that messaged you was just like sending out a blast message to have people join our Twitter space. That's why. And then you were like, are we good for 4 o'clock still 4:30? And I'm like, I literally just woke up because I get out of work at 6 in the morning and I went to bed at 7 a.m. And I was like, oh no, we weren't supposed to message him. What are you doing? So sorry about that. Sorry about that. But that brings me to the point that I went on the Twitter space and I got a couple of questions for you from our fans and stuff.
Sure.
A lot of them assume you're losing, first and foremost, which I think goes to show more of the New York brashness that a lot of times for fans of teams that aren't the Yankees or Giants are 100% not earned in any scenario whatsoever. I cheer for the Mets and the Knicks, and I have a Zach Wilson thing I'm still waiting to burn at the right time.
That's
on my
tough.
wall right here. The Mets, Jets, and Knicks make me, it's rough. It is horrendous. I never assume we're going to do well ever. But for some reason, Knicks Twitter thinks that we're going to beat you in 5 is the overall consensus, even without Julius Randle for half the games, which blows my mind 100%. But based on that, I have a couple questions for you.
Okay.
Would the Cavs consider this a failure if they lose to New York in the first round? Whether they lose, like swept or 7 games, where does the failure lie? If at all?
I think a series loss in any construct would be pretty darn disappointing for this team. You look at the Vegas odds. Vegas doesn't think it's terribly lopsided. Cavs are minus 185 on DraftKings. Knicks are plus 150. I think I saw that the Cavs are plus money to win the series by more than 2 or more games. So, going 4-0 or 4-1 or 4-2.
Right.
So that tells me that Vegas thinks that, the most likely outcome is a 7-game series.
Yep.
Though the Cavs they're just gonna have, like, I don't know if you're a degenerate like myself or I once was. I'm not as much of one anymore now that I'm a little older and less.
Let's put it this way: I don't
know
anything about golf, and I am following John Rahm so hard this weekend. That's
how
much of a degenerate I am.
Attaboy. So the Cavs are going to have some juice because they have home court and they're one of the best home court teams in the league. And the reality is, at the beginning of the season, I would have said just getting there, given where we thought the East was, and where we thought the Cavs were.
Right.
Was going to be good enough, and you hope you have a really hard fought series and maybe you're the 6th seed and you go up against a Philadelphia or something like that. But here's the reality. Cavs have the metrics that say they're a top 2 team. I don't think they are. There's enough there that gives you pause. They are young. They are shallow. They only really have 6 guys they trust right now.
Watching your bench play the other night made us feel way better as a fan base. I'm not going to lie. Watching Raul Neto and Robin Lopez play in any capacity whatsoever, kind of made the overbearing confidence go up more than it should have.
Yes. But with that said, they still have those metrics. They still have and frankly, I think I would say to Knicks fans, I'm probably gonna be annoying because I'm sure you're hoping for some steaming hot takes. I'm gonna couch everything because
I can't. I made you come on here because I know you're very even keel. I actually
I try to be pretty even keeled. And I think that the Cavs just have a talent advantage at the top. And especially with Randle banged up and maybe not playing till game 3 or game 4 or whatever it may be. And in the postseason, I think Knicks fans right now are overrating their depth. It
doesn't matter as much.
The Cavs, I am pretty darn sure we're going to see their top 4 guys, that being Darius, Donnie, Evan, and Jarrett. I think they're all going to play 40 plus minutes a game, which means you don't have to get that much out of Karis LeVert, Isaac Okoro, Dean Wade, Ricky Rubio, Jetty Osman.
Since you mentioned him as well after this, can you talk about Okoro's injury or what is happening with his knee?
Yes, I can definitely dive in on that a little bit. All reporting, I think Kelsey Russo of The Athletic reported it is a bone bruise. And he, this kind of snuck up on us. All of a sudden he was fine, and then he just wasn't playing. And JB, when he talked about it, basically indicated he's been hurting for a minute.
Rough time for that to come out.
Yes, I think he is pretty crucial in this matchup. He's the best point of attack defender on the team, and by the metrics, one of the best point of attack defenders in the league.
Yep.
When he has guarded Jalen Brunson, he's given him a very hard time. I think Brunson's like, please don't actually quote me on this, but I think Brunson was like 2 of 11 with him as a primary defender this season, which tells me he's dissuading some shots and he's not shooting that well.
Right.
He's got the right body type to guard Brunson because he's a great athlete. He's strong, and he's pretty disciplined. So he's not going to bite. It's not going to be a free throw line parade. He also allows you just to hide Darius on Grimes or Donnie and RJ
on RJ. Yeah, I think Grimes' shooting right now is kind of making it harder for him to be hidden on. It might be RJ that gets hidden on.
Yeah, here's the thing though with Darius is he is a really we're gonna bounce all over the place, but Darius is actually a very good defender by the metrics. He just has a hard time on switches because he's not a big guy, he's not strong. So like Grimes is a great matchup for Darius Garland as far as I'm concerned because he's just got to be in the right space, right? He can't fall asleep on defense. And Darius,
I was gonna say you're not worried. He's the only guy we run off ball screens for. Are you worried about him getting stuck on Mitch or Hartenstein at all?
No, he's actually been pretty good at dodging screens this year. Early on in his career, he was a forehead into the chest kind of defender off ball.
He didn't play all of college. That makes sense.
Yeah, and he was very not strong, and he's getting stronger and stronger, and he's never going to be like his frame tells you he's never going to be a strong player, but he gets skinny a lot better. Frankly, he's better off ball than Donovan is, even though Donovan has way better tools. Just because of how I think his craft is better on that side of the ball. So I think he'll do a good job there, but he's their best option on Brunson. Frankly, I think Lamar starting on Brunson in that last game showed, at least I'm hoping that meant JB wasn't taking it super serious because because Lamar is not Isaac Okoro. Lamar does much better on burly wings. And really Lamar playing at all is really indicative of their lack of depth. I still don't think he'll be in the rotation if everyone's healthy to start the series. But he might be that break glass in case of emergency guy.
Yep.
If someone just isn't showing it on any given night. But yeah, Okoro's injury matters. I think he's going to play in the postseason. It was really important that they locked up home court on Tuesday because they're able to basically rest him for 11 days.
Yeah.
And he had already missed, I want to say 6 or 7 days before that. So, 20-ish days to get over a bone bruise is pretty good. And he's young. He's in amazing condition. He's kind of famously the hardest worker on the team.
That might be where the bone bruise is from.
Yeah, probably. So, I'm not worried about, he's not like one of those older guys where you go, he's sitting for a while, so if he comes back, the conditioning is going to be shot. I'm not super worried about that. He's just a great athlete with a great motor. So if he's out there, I feel good. I think we'll know how much trouble he's in if for some reason game 1 rolls around and he's listed as questionable or doubtful. And then I'm like, oh baby, we're gonna have to. I think it's going to become a real dogfight in that front, and it's going to get a lot closer, even though. It's not a 1-for-1 trade, Randle for Okoro. I'll make that trade 10 times out of 10. But he is an important part of what they do schematically, especially against the Knicks, because, with RJ not having a particularly good year, there's just not a lot of other perimeter juice on the team. So if you can just throw your best point of attack defender at that engine, you're doing pretty darn well, because obviously Quickly's emergence helps there, but it's still not a team replete with options on the wing where you go, oh man, Darius is gonna have to guard this guy.
No, our wing options, the strength is in our defense and rebounding. It's not quite offensive. It is mostly just Quickly.
Spider-Man meme.
Right, exactly. Josh Hart, Emmanuel Quickly, Quentin Grimes. Let's all point at each other. Deuce McBride, the shorter version. Let's all point at each other. So one of the other questions I wanted to ask you, you kind of already answered it because, like you said, Mitchell, Garland, Mobley, and Allen are all going to probably play at least. You said 40 plus. I would say at least 38, honestly. Yeah. And then you have to figure out where the backup minutes and then where the 3 on your team is actually coming from. What other concerns outside of the bench, which realistically our bench is stronger than your bench, but doesn't matter as much in the playoffs. What is your main concern on the Knicks with no Randle? And then I would say outside of Jalen Brunson, like if Brunson only averages like 22 and 7 in the series on like mediocre shooting, and Randle only plays maybe the last 2 or 3 games, the Cavs lose anyway. What do you think went wrong?
I'll tell you what my number one concern is, regardless of all this stuff. I guess with the second to Brunson going ballistic for a series, because we've seen him do it, and we just saw him score 48.
He seems to hate Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, I will not disrespect the man by putting that as anything but number one. But number two for me, and it's close, is offensive rebounding. The Cavaliers, ever since they cut Kevin Love,
you guys are a bad rebounding team.
Yeah, Dean Wade was supposed to be the backup 4 and get all those minutes moving forward, because Mobley always slides to the 5. Dean hurt his shoulder in a game against the Raptors, because they hurt everybody. Yep. And ever since, the jumper fell off a cliff and he fell all the way out of the rotation. Lamar is a very limited player. Lamar really should be a 14th or 13th or 14th man. And all of a sudden he was playing backup 4 minutes. He's only 6'6". He's not a great rebounder in his own right, which meant that the Cavs were playing unbelievably small, where they were playing Evan and Jarrett as the only 2 bigs who got minutes for a healthy chunk of the season, which meant a lot of time with Jetty at the 4 or Levert at the 4 or Okoro at the 4. And the defensive
2s or 3s.
Yes, and the defensive rebounding rate collapsed. They were 8th in pre All-Star break. They were 8th in the league in defensive rebound rate. What do you think they are post All-Star break, Joe?
I actually got it up right now. I literally knew you were going to ask this question. And post All-Star break, they are last.
And
dead last
by a lot.
I have offensive rebounding too. Offensive rebounding, they fell to they're 17th on the year. I think post All-Star break it said 26th or 25th or something.
Yeah, they've not been good on the boards. Now, some of that is noise. Jared Allen's missed 4 or 5 games, which meant they were down to 1 big that was particularly playable. So like, some of that is, is noisy. If you look at the lineup data, lineups that have Mobley and Allen on the floor together are still rebounding really, really well. And as I mentioned, I do expect these guys to be playing 40 plus minutes. So, they're not going to have a ton of minutes with just 1 big on the floor. Dean Wade also has been getting run the last couple games and playing a little bit better. I wouldn't say great, but enough that you don't feel like having him out there is going to tank you. And right. their numbers with Dean at the 4 are not bad. So this might not be a huge issue, but when I look at the Knicks, their 3-point rate isn't amazing. They're not amazing in transition. Where they're gonna, make hay offensively against this Cavs team is killing drop coverage.
Yep.
And with pull-ups. And
Brunson is one of the best of the mid-range. We did see the one thing we could take from the last game was the Brunson got you guys 12 feet, 15 feet away. You all dropped, and he just shot over your head over and over again.
Absolutely. And then I also think it's just going to be generating extra possessions. I think Mitchell Robinson, in a lot of ways, is going to be the X factor for me in this series. Him and Hartenstein, Hartenstein, I still am sad we let walk. He just wanted more minutes than the Cavs were going to be able to give him. But those two generating extra possessions, especially Mitchell Robinson, I think Jared Allen is by a country mile a better player than Mitchell Robinson. But this is one of those
offense for sure, 100%.
Yeah, but this is one of those things where playoff series are different than just net quality of player. As a Cavs fan, I know full well what that is because I watched Kyrie Irving outplay Steph Curry in a final series.
Yep.
I'm not taking Kyrie over Steph, but I do think that Mitchell Robinson is talented enough that if he's at a draw with Jared Allen, if he's playing as well as Jared over the course of a series and generating those extra looks, he doesn't even have to finish them. I think he's just got to generate it. Just get the board, kick out, and get a couple extra scramble 3-point attempts up. I think that is the way the Knicks win this series, is abusing the Cavs on the boards and don't disregard a guy like Josh Hart either, who's just such a
if
cool
you didn't
player.
mention him, I was going to mention him.
Yeah, he's such a cool player. I love watching him play, even though I'm going to hate him for the next couple weeks. And yeah, Cavs are going to have to gang rebound. They're going to have to keep them off the glass, because I think if the Cavs are, to that end, if I said Robinson is net neutral with Jarrett, that's a really good indicator for you. If the Cavs somehow are net neutral on the glass, I don't think this is a long series.
Yeah.
I think the Knicks have, especially without Randle, you're going to have to find extra ways to score unless your 3-point shooting variance is just bananas, which that is my other biggest fear with this Cavs team. Sorry to monologue a little bit, but
no, you're good.
My biggest fear with this Cavs team all season has been the fact that we've got 2 elite shooters in Darius and Donovan. And
Darius seems pretty passive from afar. He doesn't seem like he always wants to shoot anyway.
He's a pure point guard. He's got a little Mike Conley in him, where he and Steve Nash in him, where it's like, brother, just take the shot. like don't turn out.
You're already open. Yeah. You don't need to kick.
Yeah. In the postseason, you can't let great be the enemy of good. And like that's going to be an interesting thing for him. And he's slumping, by the way. That's another thing. That take a look at Darius's last 10 games. They're pretty pedestrian.
That's not the time you want to go against IQ and Grimes covering you.
No, probably not. But with that said, those 2 are elite 3-point shooters, and they're the reason that despite all the spacing issues the Cavs have, they still have the 7th best offense in the league. But short of them, Mobley can't shoot. Okoro has been a good percentage, hyper low volume 3-point shooter this year. Jetty, when he gets to play, is a high variance. You saw him. I mean, he's got the worst misses in the league from 3. Even though
Obi Toppin's close second, man, for shooting 35%.
I saw that man hit a step back against the Pacers last night, and it was gorgeous. So I don't know. Anyway, the Cavs don't shoot a lot, and because they play big and really try to protect the rim, they can give up a decent volume. And I feel like one of the ways they're going to lose a series is just getting math problemed out of the series. Yep. So I think New York really should be trying to get up 40 a game. And I know they're not a crazy high volume 3-point shooting team either, especially without Randle. But I think they need to find a way to take as many as they can, because their shooting talent, I think, outpaces the Cavs shooting talent. And
our rebounding.
Yes, and you want long rebounds, right? Yeah. So like there's a lot that kind of play into why I think that's going to be an important road for New York to win. But like it's not an impractical one. Now, if the Cavs just hit their open threes and it's a wash again, I think almost all washes play in the Cavs' favor in this series, because I think they've just got more talent at the top.
Yep.
But these are high variance things, and the Knicks, I trust Grimes to hit a catch and shoot 3 out of a scramble much more than I trust Isaac Okoro right now.
100%. Absolutely. I actually have the main bigs that are going to play all their heights and wingspans. Do you want to hear them real quick and then see what your response is?
Absolutely.
So for both of your guys, I wrote down Robin Lopez. I knew he wasn't going to play.
He's not going to play.
He did have the longest wingspan at 7'6". I just wanted to point that out. But he's not going to play.
And if he is playing, something has gone so wrong.
One of us is up 30 in the last minute of the game.
Yeah, and even then, here's the thing: he doesn't even play garbage time a lot, because like JB is like, I'm not gonna make you get up.
Yeah, we don't make D Rose play either. I mean, if you're 34 and it's whatever.
Yeah.
Mobley 6'11" with a 7'4" wingspan, and Jared Allen 6'9" with a 7'6" wingspan. Very large, long arms, long gap. Robinson though, and who's gonna be matched up with Allen, 3 inches taller at 7 foot, 7'4" wingspan. Which, if you actually add them up, he's an inch higher overall. Obi Toppin, who we are going to see a lot, 6'9" with a 7'2", which he's probably going to be more on the perimeter, and he's not even a rebounding power forward.
And with hips up at his nipples, that man cannot turn to save his life.
But he can jump over everybody. And then Hartenstein 7 foot with a 7'2", but also by far the stockiest of the bunch.
Mm-hmm.
So Allen and Robinson, based on these measurements, do almost have the same exact standing reach. And then Mobley is by a much better player than either Toppin or Hartenstein, obviously. But one thing I have noticed Mobley struggle with from afar, and I think in 2 years he's going to be way better at it. He's 21 right now?
Yep.
21 years old. Yeah. When you get to 23, 24, you gain more weight. You'll figure it out from there. When him and Hartenstein are on the court together, I think Hartenstein's going to be able to box him out a little bit, even with Mobley being a better overall player, having a longer reach and stuff like that. What do you think about their measurements and stuff?
Well, I'm actually going to ask you. I'm going to ask you a question first. Do you, because Andrew Claudio from Knicks Film School kind of talked about thinking that we might see some double center lineups
God, if
with
Sims is
Randle
in there with this, I'm going to be really sad.
with Randle off. With Randle on, if Randle's not available for the first couple games, do you think we see any Robinson Hartenstein minutes together?
I don't think we would game one, and maybe not even game two. I think it's way more likely that our rotating the Spider-Man meme of wings we have, with whether you want to put Hart or RJ at the four, whichever one qualifies as a four, is much more likely to sub in for the Obi minutes when Obi's not out there. And I think Obi's only going to play 20 to 24 minutes a game, barring him being able to substantially fill up the stat sheet offensively and then not be such a negative rebounder or defensively.
I think he's your Keith Bogans memorial fake starter.
Yeah, he's better than that. I don't think he's Keith Bogans. I don't think he's Elfrid Payton. I also heard Claudio say that in a couple times. I think he gets more minutes than that. And I think the way he can earn it specifically, it's not going to be when Mobley and Allen are necessarily on the court together. He's going to start. We're going to see how it goes. There's a world where Obi's running up and down the court, and you said we're bad at transition because Brunson, Randle, and to a lesser extent, RJ and Quickly want to stop the ball. They want to dissect the defense and go from there. With Brunson and the other guys all together, Obi is running, and Hart and Hartenstein are looking for him at a very high clip that is not going to show up on any stat sheet, having a longer reach and stuff like that. What do you think about their measurements and stuff?
Well, I'm actually going to ask you. I'm going to ask you a question first. Do you, because Andrew Claudio from Knicks Film School kind of talked about thinking that we might see some double center lineups.
God, if Sims is in there with this, I'm going to be really sad.
With Randle off, with Randle on, if Randle's not available for the first couple games, do you think we see any Robinson Hartenstein minutes together?
I don't think we would game one, and maybe not even game two. I think it's way more likely that our rotating the Spider-Man meme of wings we have, with whether you want to put Hart or RJ at the four, whichever one qualifies as a four, is much more likely to sub in for the Obi minutes when Obi's not out there. And I think Obi's only going to play 20 to 24 minutes a game, barring him being able to substantially fill up the stat sheet offensively and then not be such a negative rebounder or defensively.
I think he's your Keith Bogans memorial fake starter.
Yeah, he's better than that. I don't think he's Keith Bogans. I don't think he's Elfrid Payton. I also heard Claudio say that in a couple times. I think he gets more minutes than that. And I think the way he can earn it specifically, it's not going to be when Mobley and Allen are necessarily on the court together. He's going to start. We're going to see how it goes. There's a world where Obi's running up and down the court, and you said we're bad at transition because Brunson, Randle, and to a lesser extent, RJ and Quickly want to stop the ball. They want to dissect the defense and go from there. With Brunson and the other guys all together, Obi is running, and Hart and Hartenstein are looking for him at a very high clip that is not going to show up on any stat sheet because he's only started 3 games. And 2 of the 3 games don't even matter. Like Indiana and Washington don't care. They're not playing for anything anymore. And you said it yourself. I already thought this. The Cavs gave us their like C+C game plan of a game when we went against each other.
And a D+ effort on defense. I'll tell you what,
it was an all-star game. It was an all-star game.
I was not thrilled with some of the footwork from my boys.
Oh yeah. No, I literally thought 8 players were going to watch Brunson and Mitchell shoot 50 times. And we almost got there. They got 25 and 32 shots respectively. We almost got them both shooting 40 times.
It was ridiculous. But to actually answer your question, yeah, I mean, I love Hartenstein. He's one of my favorite. I love a self-aware king. And I remember in Denver, Hartenstein said his goal was to be the best backup center in the league, which is
That's a great niche.
Which is it's such a gentle thing to want, you know, for a player of that caliber. And buddy, I think he did it. I think he is the league's best backup center. And
it's him or Naz Reid.
Yeah, he's awesome. I think he's smart. I think, you know, there's a reason Tibbs closes with him over Robinson sometimes.
Yep.
You know, I love his passing.
Especially when they have the 4 out because he's able to find the shooters way better.
He's a great passer and just a really, really solid player. So, I mean, yes, he is definitely stronger than Mobley. I kind of keep going back to the fact that I just don't think we're going to see a lot of meaningful stretches where Mobley or Allen are the only big on the floor, because I just think they're going to play. I think they're going to play so many minutes, man.
And Mitchell Hartenstein would 100% cover Allen in this scenario because Mobley is more of a roamer outside the perimeter.
Yeah, and I think I'm really interested to see how much the Cavs make the Knicks pay for going small in that construct. You know, like Mobley, even though he's not a super strong player, he's got a little nastiness to his game. Like he's not a guy who shies away from contact. He likes playing physically. He just doesn't have the means to all the time yet.
You said at the beginning of the pod, he might be the dog you're actually looking for. He's just 2 years too young still.
Yeah, absolutely. So like ultimately, I think that, you know, does he punish Josh Hart for playing at the 4? Or is it a draw? You know, those are the kind of things where, again, this I feel like the series is so hard because I really do think, especially with Randle, if Randle's out, I think the Cavs have 4 of the best 5 players on the floor, including the best player. And if I think that, I think it should be a pretty easy series, but that doesn't account for the fact that there's so much variance. This is Mobley's first playoff series. This is Darius's first playoff series.
Yeah.
Jarrett's only had, you know, a cup of coffee in the postseason. And JB has not been a head coach in the postseason much.
And for every single Knick that's playing right now, outside of Brunson in the last year, they all either only saw 5 games or 0.
Yeah, but even 5 games is really meaningful. You know, like playoffs series give you such an awesome autopsy because they really show you what you can't do yet.
Yes.
So like we just don't know. Like I think there is a world, even though I am so sure that I would rather have, you know, a young core of Darius and Evan and Isaac Okoro of the 22 and youngers. You know, there's a world in which Quentin Grimes and Quickly and Barrett outplay some of those guys. You know, like even though I think that the Cavs have a more talented team, like I just think in practice, like, you know, I think your Hartenstein Mobley point is a really smart one where I think, you know, who's taking Hartenstein over Mobley in a draft? Nobody. But can he have 2 games where he is as good as Mobley? Probably.
He just keeps him off the boards. Mobley only ends up with 7 rebounds. And he can't shoot the 3, as we've seen with 21% on the year. Like,
yeah. So I think so. Even though I think I'm going to disagree with your Knicks brethren, I think this is Cavs in 5. That is my official pick.
Okay.
I think Knicks in 6 is just maybe not just as likely. I think I'd be being too congenial and being too pretending to be more open-minded than I am. But I think it's a very reasonable outcome. And like, you know, I think there are going to be this could be one of those series where even if it's in 5, 3 of the games were, you know, settled by 2 possessions.
Yes. I had one more question before we got to the predictions. So your timing is amazing. It's like we started at 4:30 or something. Who knew?
Oh yeah.
You brought up the one guy that we haven't really talked about. Well, you brought Barrett and IQ, and I wanted to reach out. I wanted to talk about both of them in a separate manner, but that's up to you based on time. For IQ specifically,
I got time, brother. I'll hang with you.
Oh, perfect. Awesome. For IQ then to start, you said it yourself. You would, in essence, have 3 of the best 4 players. Garland, Mitchell, number 1, obviously. I would say Brunson second. And then Garland, Mobley kind of vary game to game. I would say I'd rather Mobley overall than Garland, just based on what he can bring defensively. But Garland is a phenomenal production guy.
Garland's ceiling is unbelievable. This guy's who scored 50 a couple times this season.
Yeah, and then he'll score 12 the next game. It is a wild conundrum that man is.
Yeah, I don't mind that though. He's such a general spirit. Great point guard.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you get 12 and 10, who the hell cares? You know, you did your job. You win the game. There's a world where Emmanuel quickly ends up being the 3rd or 4th best player in this like series, more so than Barrett, more so than Grimes, Mitch, Hartenstein. Not even going to talk about Hart and McBride. They wouldn't ever get there, obviously. If Emmanuel quickly can outplay Darius Garland on a given night, not most nights, but on a given night for sure. With IQ specifically, what is your worry when he's out there with Brunson and then when he's the backup point guard?
I'm probably gonna. I mean, this is I'm knocking on wood as I say this. I don't like this series for Quickly.
Really? Okay.
No, I think he is such a killer in floater range, and you know him better than me. So please correct. I'm not going to pretend to be a Knicks expert. You know, I've seen your team probably 7 or probably as many times as you've seen the
same
Cavs.
time as all the Cavs. Yeah.
But I think the fact that he loves to be in floater range and the Cavs defend floater range really, really well. And I think that if folks like Mobley and Allen switch onto him, I think those guys are very well equipped to bother him.
Yep.
I think that he's going to have to, add that extra, 5 to 10 degrees on that floater that takes it from, a 50% shot to a 45% shot.
So he did add in the past 2 or 3 months, I would say, he has like a 14-foot step back around the free throw line that has made him avoid a lot of the centers that you're talking about. He avoids Embiid like that. He's been able to avoid Giannis. I mean, we lose to the Bucks every time, which was one more question I want to ask you. Like, do you think either one of us can beat the Bucks? But we'll get to that at the end. He has added a step back, a little fadeaway to avoid the floater range of getting blocked by the Mobleys and Allens of the world for sure. Is it as good as his floater? No, but it is there now.
I hear you. I just think I think Mobley, I'd take him over any big in the league right now as a switch defender, except maybe Adebayo. I
still think Anthony Davis at his peak, man. I mean, when he's not hurt,
he's awesome. So yeah, I on a day-to-day basis, at least in terms of knowing that they're going to give the effort, not foul, be smart. Like, I just feel like, especially, I think they're going to be a little with both bigs on the floor. This is something that I think part of the reason why Knicks fans are so confident right now is that they are they've seen the Cavs a lot without Jared Allen.
He's only played 2 of the 4 games.
Yeah, only played 2 of the 4 games. And one of those 2 he played was the Kevin Love gets attacked so aggressively that the Cavs ended up cutting him out of the rotation game. So
that followed the first game of the year where Kevin Love, Dean Wade, and Donovan Mitchell made 24 threes.
Yeah, but like, I mean, in a lot of ways, I think the Knicks are part of the reason Kevin Love is no longer on the Cavs. He was so attacked on every possession of that game. So like, I think that there is going to be a lot more switching than maybe what you've seen, where if Mobley is the only big on the floor that is a true big, he's gonna have to play drop, right? Yeah. But if you can just switch, like the biggest value of them being able to switch is that they still have the other one down at the hoop if they get beat, and they have a hiding spot in Mitchell Robinson or Hartenstein that you can help off of. Now, they're helpful players.
Not as much. Hartenstein, if you give him space, he'll pick you apart passing wise, not shooting, obviously.
I hear you, but in terms of the poison you're gonna take in the postseason, like I'd rather go help on a quickly drive than figure it out later.
And Hartenstein at the elbow.
Yeah. I'll figure that out once we get there. And then and they're also, and that's the other thing they're really great at. They're not amazing at tag outs like the Boston Celtics are when they get switched into bad matchups, but they are really good at scrambling. So, Jarrett isn't going to, let's say Jarrett gets switched out onto quickly beats him off the dribble and Mobley has to go over help. Jarrett is really good at getting over to Hartenstein and whoever was, and then, it just kind of rotates through. They do a really good job of those live rotations with both bigs on the floor where it's not like Hartenstein is going to catch the ball wide open. Like Jarrett will peel off as soon as he realizes Evan is there to help. And I really think that's the identity of the team. Like as much as I love these 2 guards in the backcourt, I think the identity of the team is those 2 ruining lives on defense when they're on the floor together. And as a baseline, always having one of them on the floor to provide elite level rim protection. So I don't think this is a great matchup for Quickly. Now, of course, I don't know him as well as you do, and I might be wrong. But I think that 5 of 16 outing in the last game is a little bit closer to what reality is going to be for him in this series. Because talk about another player who hasn't seen playoff adjustments, playoff game planning. He's not a crazy athlete. I'll be interested to see what all 15 players having the Emmanuel Quickly scout, memorized and seared into their brain is going to do. In the same way, I'm interested to see how Darius works through that.
Yeah.
So I'm not terribly worried about Quickly right now. But again, I could be way wrong and he could kill us. So, I'm so excited for playoff basketball. I'm sure you are too, man. Because
I'm so excited.
Bro, like you just learn. It's like this accelerated course of study. It's like going to college. in terms of learning which of our players are ready and who isn't. Because like
we really
it's
only
just such
know
a different
Mitchell and
beast.
Brunson are ready, and everyone else is TBD.
Pretty much.
That's it. It's only two guys.
Yeah,
We
because
might
even
see the last game 7 times.
because even Randle has a ton to prove, right?
Yeah.
Like he was horrible in that Hawks series. And you know,
In
he
his
got
defense, and I know he gets a bad rap, especially from like Knicks fans through various times, and now they're watching Obi Toppin put up 30 against the backups and G Leagues of the world. In his defense, he was the best offensive player on a team, and he should never really be the 1A only best offensive player on a team.
Sure.
And they didn't have Mitch in that series, and I know Capella being able to not have to play the center nearly as well. Nerlens Noel, for all the times we ever say Mitch doesn't have an offensive bag, Nerlens Noel can't catch the ball. And Taj Gibson's been old for 7 years and still plays somehow. So he did have
Correct.
way too much on his plate for his first NBA playoff series at all. And everyone's like, well, he was in the league 5-6 years. If you never make the playoffs, you just said it yourself. He went to college and he failed his first year. He just did not expect that at all. And I hope he comes back, because I think the Knicks can't win without him. And I think he can help them. I'm picking the Knicks in 7 personally. I actually am not scared of the Cavs home court even with how good they've been this year. Was it 31-8?
Well, I'm not surprised. The Knicks have been one of the best, perhaps the best road team in the league.
Third best behind the Bucks and one other team, I think.
And the Cavs have not been great on the road.
Yeah.
And it's got it, and it's. I will say there is some stuff that hedges that. I believe the Cavs have the 3rd best net rating in the league on the road, even though they have a losing record.
What do you do? Win by 30 or lose by 2? What the hell?
So, well, first off, that's the story of the Cavs season. That's why they have the 2nd best net rating in the league, is they never lose by a lot. They just don't. But also, if it's funny, there's a lot of hand-wringing about the Cavs in the clutch.
Yeah.
Those splits are entirely built on home and road. They are actually an awesome clutch team at home. They are terrible in the clutch on the road, which is why they have a losing record despite having a very, very good net rating. I just checked; they are 4th in the league in road net rating, right above
hilarious.
Right above your New York Knicks, who are 5th.
So and the Knicks are not seen as a clutch team at all. Randle's seen as anti-clutch, and yet for some reason we close out close games.
Yeah, so it's going to be, I think that's going to be another factor is, especially in games 1 and 2, if y'all come in and steal, the Garden is going to. I actually had this thought. I wonder if you think I'm an idiot for thinking it, and maybe I'm just being a little bit of a doomy fan. But
aren't we all at the end of the day?
Yeah, of course. Part of me was like, it almost might be good for the Knicks not to have home court advantage in this series, in the sense that if you do steal game 1 or game 2. The Garden in games 3 and 4 is going to be bananas.
Yeah.
And if the Cavs come in stressed and the Garden's rocking, like I think that's another road for a Knicks series win, is like if the Cavs if this team of children, because like yes, the Knicks are young too. The Cavs are only playing young players.
Yeah.
Donnie is 26. Darius is 22. Evan is 21. Okoro is 3 months older than Evan. I think he just turned 22. Levert, I think, is 27. And Jarrett is 26 or 25. Like, they have no grown-ups in their rotation except Ricky Rubio.
I mean, dude, and how much Rubio's going to play? What, 12 minutes if he's lucky? I mean,
he's been bad, so he might not even get that.
I kind of figured. I was trying to figure out your rotation based on the last 20 games you guys have played, and I was like, I can't imagine a world where Mitchell's just not, in essence, the backup one, and you stack Darius and Mitchell's minutes. I don't understand why that would happen.
Here's the reality, man. I really think this team is. I think JB is going to have to do a little bit of the throw shit at the wall approach.
Yeah.
With his bench, like if Dean Wade is giving you good minutes, like that's the weird thing with this bench. Even though they're not as dependable as the Knicks bench, all of them at their best are really helpful. Ricky has won them some games late in fourth quarters. Dean Wade has been like a perfect glue guy along with their other high usage players. Because that's the thing, like Cavs bench numbers are never going to be awesome because they're four guys. They have four dudes who play 37 minutes a game that all shoot the ball a ton and touch the ball a ton. So you don't like need crazy volume. You just need like productive, helpful play. And Dean has done that for them for big stretches of the year. So if he's feeling good, Danny Green is going to play in this postseason. He is going to be their break glass in case of emergency player. I'm just sure of it. He has.
You guys are losing the series 3-1 at the time he comes in, if he comes in this series at all.
I think that is correct. I think things are not going well with whoever is playing. If Danny isn't going to be the first option. He tore his ACL 3 months after Ricky Rubio did, and Ricky's still working his way back.
Yeah.
So like, but the shooting's there. So if like they can't hit the broadside of a barn with their other role players, they might risk his defense and his just being kind of slow-footed right now. For the fact that he can still shoot the absolute crap out of the ball. When he has played, he's hit almost every catch and shoot three he takes. So like they have guys they can try that can help. Like Howell Neto came in the third quarter and played the only passable defense on Jalen Brunson all game. They have guys that can help. Lamar has helped them win over the course of the year. Karras has had amazing games, and he's playing his best basketball this season. So I just think there's going to be a little bit of
also like 29 or 30. Levert's up there.
I think he's 27. Let me check real quick. He might be 20. He's 28.
Because you were saying all the guys older on your team. If Randle's not playing, we have Brunson and Hart both at 26, 27, and then every other person in our rotation's under 25.
That's so crazy to me. They just feel older to me. Maybe it's just a
Randle,
thing.
man. It's just Randle looks old, and then Brunson seems like he's been around forever because he's already won national titles and stuff.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is like he's old for his NBA experience. I think that kind of gets held against him a little bit. Not fairly. So point is, I think that the Cavs are in a world where JB might find some guys that really, really help. He just also might not. But like, I think if you're a Knicks fan and you just expect every Cavs bench player to be a disaster, I think you're probably being a little too cynical.
We already watched Karis LeVert do well last game. We watched Dean Wade destroy us a game.
Yeah.
Which so it's just, you can't forget that.
I just don't think we know where it's going to come from now. And again, I'm as doomy as anyone. I think there's a real world chance it does not come, and in which case I think the Knicks have a really good shot to win this series. But I'm going to lean towards playing the average, and I think someone's going to come through.
That's fair. That is fair. Carter, one last question, and then I'll let you go. Thank you so much for your time again. Much appreciated.
Of course, having a blast.
This is the last thing I wanted to ask you. Also, it's like I started without the playoff talk, and I want to end without the playoff talk. How long do you think the Cavs window? I'm assuming you feel the same way I do. First of all, either one of us is going to lose to the Bucks, more likely than
correct.
Not. I don't know. If I was a Cavs fan, I would assume we lose in like 6. I'm a Knicks fan. I assume we lose in 5. Honestly, either way.
I think if either team can get the Bucks to 6 games, they have learned a lot about themselves and should feel very good about themselves.
Yeah, exactly. So working based on that, how close do you think the Cavs are with this core to challenging the Bucks, and then also the Celtics, Sixers on like a lesser level? And then how close are you from a player standpoint, and how close are you from an X amount of years? I think we can get back to the NBA Finals standpoint.
I think that by next, Kobe has a really interesting challenge in front of him because his asset cupboard is relatively bare. They traded every first rounder they're going to have for a long time, with the exception of next year's first, by the way. Don't forget that they are going to have their 2024 first.
So after this draft, you can trade it again.
Absolutely. Actually, I think it has to be on draft day because they don't have 2025. But whatever it may be, they will have a piece to upgrade the roster. They'll have the full mid-level because they're not a tax team.
Yep.
And they have some exceptions. They have a bucket of seconds, and apparently you can buy anyone for 5 seconds. This trade deadline taught us.
Yeah.
So I think, so I think there's some roads to improving the team, but the core, if you're building a team, if you know your top 4 guys are all, not in their prime yet and all awesome, you've already gotten 95% of the way there.
Yep.
So if they can add a really, really helpful wing shooter that can play a little bit of defense, and maybe add a 4-5 that, gives them a little insulation in case Mobley or Allen get in foul trouble. I'm thinking of guys like, this guy's not going to be available and he's coming off injury anyway, but like a guy like Brandon Clark, if they found some road to a Brandon Clark type player, they got to find 2 role players, I guess is what I'm telling you. I think they got to find
Brandon Clark. If I can get the Memphis Grizzlies, if I could just get Zaire Williams and make him figure out how to be a better player, then I think that'd be perfect. Honestly,
there you go. I think they need 2 role players and things will click into place. this roster doesn't even fit together, and they're a 50-win team with the second best net rating in the league.
Yep.
They don't have a single movement shooter in their rotation that does not also pound the ball 100 times a game.
Yeah.
So, I've talked a lot about when the Cavs traded for Channing Frye, who was a player who had absolutely no, perceived value left.
We are aware. As Knicks fans, we are very aware.
Like, he was toiling away in Orlando, and it was kind of depressing.
Yep.
And they trade for him, and then it's like light bulb goes off, and the whole roster makes sense. I really feel that way about them adding a shooter on the wing. If they could find a way to, like we've talked a lot about, like, guys, these aren't sexy names, like Max Struses of the world.
Yeah.
Guys who just can shoot and defend and play hard.
Pat Connaughton, Alex Caruso, stuff like that
would kill for a Pat Connaughton or a Grant Williams or guys like that. If they had someone like that, I might be sprinkling a little money on a East championship future next year. Now that would be very speculative. I think they're 2 years away from true title contention. But I think you cannot underrate how far Mobley has come over the course of this year as a scorer. He's a 20-10 guy for the last 50 games.
That's really good.
In year 2, on the team with the second best net rating in the league, with less than optimal spacing around him. I think
he should be a small ball 5 in any version of today's NBA, and he plays next to Jared Allen.
It's funny. I really think he is a 4.
Really?
Yes.
But I feel like his defensive drop coverage is almost as good, if not better, than Allen's overall.
But he's such an elite free safety, man. So having someone else around the rim and letting him roam is so valuable. So point is, I think, like, if they are to be a title contender, Mobley has to become a top 10 player.
Yep.
And luckily, a lot of people think he's going to be a top 10 player someday. It's kind of fun as a Cavs fan getting to talk other national media down sometimes, where I have to be like, guys, he's not there yet. Give it a second. Because so much of the time as a fan, this, you're proselytizing on behalf of your team and trying to tell everyone how great your team is. But with Mobley, I almost have to tell everyone to pump the brakes, because I do see the stuff he's still got to work on. But man, the future is so bright, and he's such a good kid. He works so hard. So I think a couple years and they're knocking on the door, and this is why I would have made the trade for the Knicks for Donovan, because I wouldn't say the same for the Knicks, that they're 2 years away from a title, because I still don't think they have that true blue 1A.
Right.
And as much as I love Brunson and respect Brunson, I think that well is pretty well tapped. I don't see another big leap for him coming. Maybe I'm wrong. It'd be cool if I was wrong. But I still think you're a move away. And until I know what that move is, hi Joel Embiid this summer. If James leaves, please don't do that. But I think that I'm not there with the Knicks yet until I see what that move is, if that makes sense.
That is fair, 100%. On the Joel Embiid note, I actually have notes that are right in arm length. Give me 1 second.
Oh, man.
I literally, so it's funny you say that. So I actually did math and figured out overall how many 2-team trades have happened since I did this a couple of nights ago. Since the NBA went to 6 divisions in 2003, 2004. Was it 03, 04? 05, 06, I think. Yeah, 05, 06. There have been 859 2-team trades. Only 114 are within division. That's 13%. The Knicks were involved in 6 of them, and the best player they got was Andrea effing Bargnani. 2 of the main parts of the trades they did involved players that either never played for them or never played another minute in the NBA. Teams do not trade intra-division. And for the East specifically, it's only the Raptors and Nets that do it, and they never do it to the Knicks because everyone hates New York. So no matter what any Knicks fan or anyone says online, Mikal Bridges, Joel Embiid, Jaylen Brown are not coming to the Knicks unless they get here in a very nefarious free agency or Jalen Brunson's dad made you sign kind of way. So as much as I would love Joel Embiid,
Rick Brunson seems very persuasive.
He might be.
Ultimately, I do think you just need to find that 1A, if Brunson is your 2 and Randle's your 3, you got a stew going. Because and I think that is the biggest difference between these two franchises right now is Mitchell, I think, is as close as you're going to get to that right now. And they have two dudes who are still on the very, very significant upswing in their career that are 22 or younger. And as much as I love Grimes and Quickly, I don't think they have the ceiling Garland and Mobley have.
I think it also is just rough that like three of your best four players are all wings or guards. Like Randle's great for what he is and all, but we would need a better front court partner one way or another.
Probably, so it
or replace Randle with Giannis or something like that.
yeah, that's probably the most likely outcome. So or maybe Luka. He seems miserable right now. So it'll be fun to see how the Knicks move forward because they kept their powder dry. I think the kind of player they decide to really go in on really is going to be telling. And I'm excited to see both these teams in the postseason for the foreseeable future. It's so cool how young both these teams are, and I think these two fan bases are going to have a healthy disrespect of one another by the end of the series, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Carter, there's a strong possibility that this becomes a very 1990s style feud over the 2020s.
Oh yeah,
I'm gonna be loving every minute of it.
Hell yeah! I thought it was going to be the Hawks, but they hate each other more than. More than they could possibly hate any other team. So for both of us, because Cavs fans were like, "Well, we really like playing the Hawks. Those games are all fun, but they're living in play-in land." We both of our teams have evolved past worrying about Trae Young and his grifting antics.
Oh my God, do you think there's a single player in the whole NBA that hates his life more than John Collins?
What a weird team, man. What a miserable team. And oh god, just gross basketball too. Like God,
I wouldn't even. Did they give you $20 million a year? Why did you go there?
I don't know, man. But that team as a Cavs fan, man, the Hawks with their grifting, and the Raptors and their wanton disregard for the health of players on the floor. Both those teams are on my S list. So I'm thrilled to see them down in play-in land.
Forget ATL. Get the F out of here. Carter, thank you so much, man. Much appreciated. Your official prediction is Cavs in 5?
I'm going Cavs in 5. Though that I think without the context that begets a level of confidence that I don't think I have. I think that is a possible outcome out of many.
Okay. That's fair. I saw you tweet that you actually ranked all the potential outcomes. I am officially going to say Knicks and 7 both this week and next week on here. So
let's go, brother. Knicks. It's going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be fun, but boo, get out of here.
and Knicks fans, feel free to come at me for wherever I've accidentally slandered your faves.
Speaking of which, I've
done my best.
At Carter underscore shade. At Carter underscore SHADE. You can find this man on Twitter. Send any and all hate mail there. We'll also tag him when this gets released. Carter, thank you again so much, man. Much appreciated.
Absolutely. Anytime, man.
Let's go, Knicks. Peace.